Hello, friends. Welcome back to Senior to Seniors. I'm so glad you're here with me today. You know, one of the things I love most about doing this podcast is getting to bring you stories that actually matter to our lives. Stories that can help us plan smarter, worry a little less, and take care of ourselves and the people we love. And today, I've got one of those stories. I want to talk with you about a new medical study that came out earlier this year in February of 2026, published in a journal called Nature Medicine. I came across a fantastic article written by James Kelly over at LTC News, and I want to share what he uncovered because honestly, this could change the way we think about Alzheimer's disease. So let's get into it. What's the big news? Well, here's the headline. Scientists may now be able to predict through a simple blood test not just whether Alzheimer's disease is developing in someone's brain, but roughly when symptoms might actually begin. Now, I know that may sound a little scary at first, but stay with me because there is so much hope wrapped up in this research. The study was led by scientists at Washington University School of Medicine, working alongside the Foundation for the National Institutes of Health. And what they found is genuinely remarkable. They identified a protein in the blood. It's called pTau217, and elevated levels of this protein are strongly linked to the kind of brain changes that happen in Alzheimer's disease, often years before any memory problems show up. Here's the really exciting part. By tracking how these protein levels change over time, researchers built what they're calling a clock model, essentially a predictive timeline. And in their study of over 600 adults between the ages of 62 and 78, this clock model was able to estimate when Alzheimer's symptoms might begin within about 3 to 4 years. 3 to 4 years of advance notice. Think about what that could mean. How does the clock model work? Let me break this down simply because I think it's worth understanding. Alzheimer's doesn't just show up overnight. It develops silently, sometimes for decades, while amyloid plaques build up in the brain and nerve cells slowly lose their function. By the time someone forgets a name or gets confused about directions, that process has often been going on for a long, long time. What the blood test does is detect pTau217, that protein we mentioned, which arises in a measurable pattern before symptoms ever appear. Researchers followed participants for up to 10 years, took repeated blood measurements, and used that data to model when the disease was likely to cross into the symptomatic stage. One of the most interesting findings: age matters a lot. A 60-year-old and an 80-year-old might have similar protein levels in their blood, but face very different timelines. Younger folks who reach elevated levels tend to have more time before symptoms. Older individuals tend to progress more quickly. The aging brain, as many of us know from experience, doesn't have the same resilience that it once did. Dr. Suzanne Schneidler, the senior author of the study and an associate professor of neurology at Washington University, put it this way, and I'm paraphrasing here, that this research shows blood tests can potentially predict not only whether someone is likely to develop Alzheimer's symptoms, but also provide an estimate of when that might happen. And that's a big deal. So, can I go get this test today? Well, I want to be really honest with you here because I know some of you are already thinking, okay, where do I sign up? Right now, this test is not available for routine screening. It's currently designed for research purposes only to help scientists identify the right participants for clinical trials. And major medical organizations, including the Alzheimer's Association, are actually urging caution about broad biomarker testing for people without symptoms. Why? Because right now there's limited guidance on what someone should do with that information, and there are real ethical questions to work through. But here's what I want you to hear, and here's what I heard. The direction of this science is clear. Blood-based Alzheimer's diagnostics are getting more accurate, more accessible, and more informative every single year. What's researched today has a way becoming standard case tomorrow. And that matters for how we think about planning right now. So, what might this mean for your planning and my planning? Let me step back from the science for a second and talk about something very practical, because this really is at the heart of why I wanted to share this with you today. Alzheimer's is one of the leading reasons people need long-term care. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 56% of Americans who reach age 65 will need some form of long-term care services, whether that's help at home, assisted living, memory care, or a skilled nursing facility. And I'll tell you something most people don't find out until it's too late. Medicare does not cover most long-term care. It's not a Medicare benefit. Unless you're planning ahead with long-term care insurance or other financial strategies, that cost falls on you and it falls on your family. James Kelly's article makes a point that really stuck with me. Planning before a diagnosis preserves more options. Once cognitive impairment is documented, your options for long-term care insurance or certain financial tools can become very limited or even unavailable entirely. Most people who get long-term care policies are between the ages of 47 and 67 while they're still in reasonably good health. Now, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to be real with you. This new research is a reminder that Alzheimer's can be developing quietly right now in some of our brains. And the earlier we plan, the more control we have over what happens next. That means having the conversation with your family, getting your documents in order, looking into your long-term care options now, not after a diagnosis forces the issue. For those of you who are caregiving, I also want to take a moment for those of you who are already on the other side of this, who are caring for a spouse, a parent, a sibling with Alzheimer's. This is hard work. It is some of the most demanding, heartbreaking, and love-filled work a person can ever do in their lifetime. And you are not alone. Did you know that right now, 63 million Americans are providing unpaid care to a loved one? 63 million. That's a 45% increase since just 2015. Alzheimer's and dementia account for a huge share of that. If you're in that season of life, please know it is okay to ask for help. In-home professional caregiving, adult daycare programs, memory care facilities, these are not signs of failure. they are signs of love. Finding quality care for your loved ones is maybe the most important thing you ever do. So here's what I want to leave with you today. For decades, Alzheimer's research focused on diagnosing the disease after someone was already struggling. This new study, this blood test clock model, represents a real shift. Scientists are now working to understand the disease before the decline begins. And if this research continues to develop the way researchers hope, it could one day help identify people for prevention trials, guide earlier treatment, and give families more time to have the conversations that matter. We can't control when Alzheimer's research will have its next breakthrough, but we can control whether we prepare while the window is still open. A big thank you to James Kelly and the team at LTC News for the thorough and thoughtful reporting that inspired today's episode. I'll link to the original article in our show notes so you can read it for yourself. And I'll post the graphs on my Facebook page, my Senior to Seniors Facebook page. And don't forget, I'll be posting the research graphs in other places as well. Sometimes seeing the data visually really helps it click. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for spreading the news and for spending this time with me. If today's episode got you thinking, spread the news. Share it with someone that you love. That's really what Senior to Seniors is all about. Seniors, taking care of seniors, looking out for each other, and making sure none of us has to face these big questions alone. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Have a great day.